I saw something earlier today, a take on success, which I found pretty interesting, and I would like to hear your take on it. So, when most people think about success, what's the main thing that nowadays that people kind of, I guess, say or makes someone successful?
Two things, either money or clout.
Yeah, I forgot about clout. Yeah,
But money, probably.
Yeah, money.
But money gets clout.
Correct. But
Yes,
here's the thing.
yes.
That's what I'm leading to. So, back to Sharon Srivatsa. Again, I apologize if I'm getting the name wrong. But he actually says that success has 5 dimensions, and they can all help you with each other. And especially the other 4 can help you get money in the long term, and vice versa, of course, because money can help you get damn near whatever. So, success, or the 5 dimensions of success: money, relationships, brand, energy, and skill. So we can go down the line here. We'll start with money last because, everybody knows fucking money. But relationships. How has relationships helped us achieve our success?
And I owe this entirely to you because I, for one, never truly understood the power of relationships and network until Austin quite literally just completely disregarded whatever I was thinking and forced me into this whole shabazz of talking to people and socializing and meeting people. And I wasn't necessarily against it. I just didn't see the value. I was like, why the fuck do I need to talk to people? How the fuck are these people going to help me? But relationships and how they lead to success, right? That's the primary focus here.
Correct.
There's not one thing that you can do on your own. You can't even wipe your own ass on your own. And I know that's a crazy statement, but what I mean to say is that there's nothing that you can do alone. You can't start a business alone. You can't even process payment alone. You have to register with the city or in the state and the country. You have to get a bank account. You need a payment processor. You need connections in everything that you do. All the simple bullshit aside, you'll never grow if you don't build relationships, and you will also never know and actualize your true potential without having relationships that are going to set you up for success. There's opportunities that you would never imagine you would have unless you met the people that you met. And oftentimes it's usually the most inconspicuous people that you meet in the most inconspicuous places where they recognize your potential and who you could be, and they see value added in both directions. And that's what really creates a long-lasting success, is who you know, how you can help them, and how they can help you in return for long-term progress.
Correct. And I'm pretty sure you've heard this before, but people would like to argue is sometimes not what you know, but it's who you know. And when it comes to business, especially with higher numbers, it's not so much about what you know and what, your company is able to do. Of course, that's very important. However, it's also about who you know and who knows you. So if we're thinking about things, and this is something that I just recently learned. So if you're already an expert in this, then apologies if, it doesn't come off as crisp and clean as you might say it. But when you're thinking about how these huge amounts of money are made, like say billions of dollars, right? More often than not, it's not happening on the open stock market where a random person is going to be, investing some money, and they're going to invest a certain amount to the point to where they're just going to have billions and billions of dollars in the stock market. That's probably not where people who are making that much money are investing their money. Of course, they're going to have some shit in the stock market, but it's not going to be that amount, or you're not going to get those types of returns from that revenue stream. It's probably going to be through something called private equity. Mm-hmm. And one of the main ways that people of that ilk make that type of money and get into that industry, it's not so much about, what you're able to offer. Of course, that matters, but it's also about who you know. Because some of the most profitable and most revenue generating businesses and entities in the world are companies that you've never heard of in your entire life, ran by people that you've never heard of in your entire life. And that means something. You know certain people who are successful, but the people who are most successful in the world are probably people that you've never heard of. Mm-hmm. And those people interact with people that you've never heard of. That's the close circle that they swim in, that they function in, and they do business with people in that circle. So what would happen to you think, if you knew someone in that circle and you knew how they conducted business, you knew more about private equity, you knew more about how these deals got done. So that's the importance of relationships, and also who you know and who knows you, because it allows you to basically step into a new realm of making money, a new realm of understanding on how the things that people take for granted work, like how money really works, how investing really works. And when you have those good relationships with people who are really doing these things, you get access to things that most people don't get access to. And because of what Jose mentioned, what we're mentioning right now together, is why access and relationships especially is huge when it comes to being able to achieve certain amounts of success, in my opinion. So next one, we talked about relationships. Next one is brand. So not only brand as your business, but also your personal brand. How does that help you achieve success?
You are only as good as your word. And I think this is something that's largely forgotten nowadays, because there's not a lot of accountability on the surface. Because you can say things and do things where you're not held accountable for them. However, when you are at a scale of a business and you're dealing with high-level relationships and high-level individuals, your word is your bond. And if you fail to come through with the words and the promises that you made, then you lose your entire reputation, aka your brand. You need to present yourself in a way that is not only attractive, but is altruistic. And it needs to be truly altruistic, or none at all. You have to be clear, straightforward, and transparent as to what your intentions are, because eventually people will find out that if you are who you say you are and you do what you say you're going to do and you follow through with your word, then they can rely on you for XYZ. If you're going to reliably snake people, they know you're a snake. If you're a reliably reliable person who does the right thing and is honest, then they will know that you are a good man and you're an honest man. But if you're in between the two, nobody will ever even want to work with you. You don't fit into a single category. Nobody can go with the brand. It's one of those all or nothing things. Obviously, I'm supporting the be honest and be altruistic, but you can still benefit in a certain way from the negative. However, I will say your brand is everything. The way people view you is everything. And once you lose it, it's lost. You can't gain it back. Easily, at least.
Easily, yeah. Definitely not easily. Because what you mentioned there, which I think most people don't think about when they're thinking about branding. They think about branding is just the view. Like, it's just how, you know, the shit that I'm wearing, how I look, all that type of shit. Like, that's a piece of branding. However, it's also what you do. It's how you carry yourself, not just what you wear and how you present yourself on Instagram and shit like that. It's what you do. Are you a man of your word? Are you a person of value? Things like you mentioned. That, to me, is just as important of a kind of point to brand as, you know, the external shit. It's also the internal shit that matters to your brand. And like you said, are you a man of your word? That's huge when it comes to business and interacting with people who have some shit going for themselves, because they're making millions of dollars a day or millions of dollars a fucking, you know, year. And when it comes to doing business with those type of people, when you say that you're going to do something, there's no second thought about it. In their mind, it's like, okay, this person's going to do something. I'm going to let them handle it. I have other shit to deal with. So if you don't fucking do it, then you just fucking threw a whole fucking wrench in everything, because they probably could have done that themselves or find someone else to do it, but they trusted you to do it. And you just wasted their time and potentially wasted their money. So not only, again, what you're perceived as, but also what your internal kind of character and fucking things that you do, that also matters just as much when it comes to brand. And when you're thinking about companies that have a negative brand, see how they turned out. After a certain period of time, they probably fizzled out. They probably, died as a company. And one of the first ones that comes into my mind when I'm thinking about this right now, it's Spirit Airlines. So even, was it as bad as people probably portrayed it online? Maybe not. I don't know. I've never been on there.
Yeah.
But I've never been on there because of how the brand was portrayed, how people kind of maybe fudged the story to make it look more negative, but that was the brand. Cheap. It may get you to where you're going, but it's not going to be elegant. It's not going to be nice.
And you might die on the way.
You might die, but if you don't, you'll get there. But it's not going to be the best. That was their brand. Cheap and cheap. That was it. However, after a long period of time of that being their brand, especially in this generation, people were not so, adamant about doing business with them. And I believe they filed for bankruptcy. Mm-hmm. So that's why branding is super, super important. And even though they tried to fix it, maybe, I believe they do, but I actually don't know. But I would think that they tried to fix it. It stuck with them to the point to where it ruined their business. So if you're in the process of having your own business, starting your own thing, realize that how people view you and also the things that you do matter so, so much to the effectiveness of your business and of your product. Because to be honest with you, people don't buy our product. They buy us. It's a brand. It's what we do. It's how we speak. It's what we say. And the things that we do after we fucking say the thing that matters to people. The product is great. But when you have the brand, the product sells itself. And when you have a shit brand, the product doesn't sell. And then you file for bankruptcy.
Why do you think Kanye can pay $1.8 million for a Super Bowl commercial where he's just talking to his iPhone? He's like, I need you to go to Yeezy.com and buy. Yeah. And then that's it. That's the whole video.
And I'm glad you said that. And also, why do you think Kanye, after Adidas said, yeah, I'm not going to do any more business with you, we're not going to give you a deal, came back and said, yeah, Kanye, here's a new deal. Brand. They know the power of his brand and image and what it's able to do. And they know the things that he does is just so unique and just so ingenious to the point to where they had to come back because they knew that even though his image and whatnot may be a little bit costly, it's a brand that they needed to attach themselves to because he sells. Marketability wise, whether you love him or hate him, people are going to watch and tune in because he's going to say something maybe a little bit out there. He's going to do something a little bit out there, but that's his brand and it works. So even though it may come off as a brand where it's like, I don't know. And since I said this, I think someone has to go research. I would, but we're podcasting. But someone has to go research Spirit's numbers within, say, like 5 to 10 years ago. I think that was the height or close to the height of Spirit is some shit. And they got so much publicity that I believe their numbers could have went up because their brand was cheap, but they were getting so much attention for being cheap that I'm pretty sure their numbers probably went up 5 to 10 years ago. Now they just couldn't capitalize on it, but that was their brand. Brand was cheap and they marketed it to the point to where once you market something as cheap and people can have access to it, even if it's not the best product, if that's your brand and you can market it well, it could still work. They just didn't continue to market it well. So, did you find something?
It's very interesting. So, revenue from 2010, I'm going to go year by year. 0.78 billion, 1 billion, 1.3 billion, 1.6 billion, 1.9 billion, 2.1 billion, 2.32 billion, 2.6 billion, 3.2 billion, 3.8 billion, 1.8 billion. But this is interesting. That was in 2019 to 2020, it dropped. Then from 2021, it went to 3.2, 2022, 5, 2023, 5.3, and 2024, 5.1.
Right. So that doesn't surprise me because even though they filed for bankruptcy, and also you have to realize that bankruptcy...
And that's revenue though.
Correct.
Not even profits. So
exactly.
We don't know what...
Right, because they might have a shit back into the point to where they had too much cost to where even though they were generating that much revenue, it wasn't, turning into profit because they had so much shit to upkeep that, it kind of, basically engulfed the revenue that they were getting. But that kind of doesn't surprise me because, especially over the last year plus, there was so much attention to their brand being shit that even, people have said bad publicity is good publicity, or any publicity is good publicity, whether it's good or bad. That's one of the things where that can happen because you're getting a lot of publicity, even though it's fucking telling or basically saying that your company is shit. It's a lot of attention onto your product that people would have otherwise gone towards, and you're getting more eyes on, which probably is going to, equate to more buys. So I can see how that happened. But go ahead.
But you got to take into account from 2019 to 2020, they lost $2 billion. They went down 58%. I don't think you can recover from that, especially during the 2 pandemic years.
Correct.
Because even though your revenue goes up, your business costs during the pandemic went up by like 70% across the board.
Right.
So if you think about it, you took a loss of $2 billion, and then after that, you're paying 70% more in your expenses for the next 2 years. Now we're talking 2023 is the first year you're in the green, and you might hit 5 million or 5 billion, but you're still 2 billion in a hole, and you spent an additional 1.5 billion per year. So like you're 6 billion in a hole.
Right.
And you made 5 billion in 1 year. You're still $1 billion down. Exactly. It doesn't matter how much money you make the next year. Right. It's like, and they made 5 the next year. Right. But that doesn't break even. So even like one hit can be enough.
Right.
And there's multiple factors.
Exactly. And one of the things that could definitely be a factor, in my opinion, is like, hey, you're generating $5 billion for, an extended period of time. You know what that normally means? Hey, I'm going to hire more people so I can get more revenue. And when you take that big of a fucking drop, that doesn't mean that once you take that big of a drop, all the people that you hire just disappear. No, they're still working for you, but how are you going to pay them?
Mm-hmm.
So when you're having that big ass chunk of revenue that's just fucking gone all of a sudden, you still have those fucking employees. What that normally means is you're going to lay some off. However, you're not just going to lay off people who are bad. You're probably going to lay off some of the good people as well because you just have to cut costs in any way possible. Then the productivity of or efficiency of your company and business and how it's running because you don't have the talent is probably going to suffer as well, which continues that kind of downward spiral of you not making more revenue because you don't have good people who are doing good things in your company and innovating and continuing your upward trend. Then on top of that, you try to hire more people back to try to get them on, but they're probably not trained up as well. Or, especially with this generation, they're probably not as willing to work as hard. And then you're in the shitter. So, yeah, a little bit of a tangent. But again, branding and how important that is and how doing it incorrectly can get you in that situation.
And here's where we get to say, y'all can follow up on the next episode for the next 2.
There you go.
So stay tuned for part 2.
Stay tuned.
The AM Club Podcast.
Signing out.
Mic check. The AM Club Podcast.